Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Uh,
I'm so honored to have Mr. Peter from Taiwan. Now he's in Japan. I'm very glad to have talk with him about exploring his activities and new trend in Taiwan, in Asia.
yes.
So, Peter, thank you for joining us. I'm very glad to have you this time.
Thanks, Kurahara. I'm Peter. I'm from Taiwan, and I'm happy to talk with Kurahara about the civic tech community, about my participation experience, and also about the digital rights, some discussions happening in Taiwan right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get start his uh, explaining his profile. And
Yes.
Peter is graduate student studying IP and competition role in the National Taiwan University and served as a research assistant in academia, Thinika for AI and information technology role from 2021 to
Yes.
2023. His research focuses
Yes.
on competition role and privacy issues on the digital platforms. Besides his job and academic works, he also participated in GovZero, a civic tech community in Taiwan. The project of vTaiwan, which he participated in and just won the OpenAI grant two of the democratic input to the AI with a proposal cooperated with the Chatham House. So that was great and remarkable work. So Peter, thank you for joining and let's exploring the democratic actions in your country.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna start the first question about you. And you're working on the digital human rights space that was very exclusive. So could you share about your history? Why did you start to work on the digital human rights?
Yes, I think my past is kind of like unusual because firstly, I'm not directly entering to the digital human rights issues or this field directly because originally I would just want to explore more possibilities than just become a lawyer or become a judge or become a public prosecutor. So I try to enlarge and expand my possibilities during my university life. So I participate in multiple events, exploring different kind of social issues. And I find that technology and law, these kind of like discussions, like some new technology like AI or internet or the blockchain, the Bitcoin, blockchain cryptocurrency, these kind of things is kind of like interesting for me. So I starting to focus my research, not only my academic research, but also my interest on legal issues, focusing on these kind of new stuff, the technology stuff. So, and also when I was in my third year in the university, uh, I participated into the GovZero and the vTaiwan community, which I will elaborate more later. And these kind of experience by participating these GovZero and the vTaiwan community actually allows me to know more people that have both a legal background and technology background. There are not some people are engineer but care about the social issues, so they do some legal studies, or some people are lawyers but they care about the technology applications and then some ethical issues or some legal issues arise from the development of these new technology. So they are interested in these kind of field. So I think I was influenced by them so that I gradually become more and more interested in the digital rights. And one very important chance and opportunity I get is when I was in my second year in the graduate school. I was invited by a lawyer to join the task force of the Judicial Reform Foundation. And the Judicial Reform Foundation, they have um, they have different task force composed of the staff of Judicial Reform Foundation, as well as the volunteers from all walks of life, like from different professionals, to form a task force dealing with different issues. And one task force that I participated since then is the digital rights or digital law task force. So these digital law task force dealing with multiple issues ranging from artificial intelligence to the blockchain to the new technology. And I learned a lot in the task force. And since we are a task force, so we are going to make some actions. Like when the government released a new regulation on the new technology, we'll have to propose the commentary, we'll have to propose responses from the civil society, or we have to work with other NGOs like Oakland Cultural Foundation or other or Amnesty International in Taiwan or Human Rights Foundation in Taiwan. These kind of human rights foundations to work we work together to draft some response to the government or proposal to the government. Or we are also holding events in the international events like APR-IGF, Internet Governance Forum, or COSCOP, which is the largest open source conference every year in Taiwan. So these kind of actions also enrich me about the experience on the digital rights. And my experience when working on a project of OpenAI in the vTaiwan community also makes me think more about, especially on artificial intelligence, about the privacy issues, about ethical issues, about the discrimination issues, how to solve them. Can we provide a proper solution, or how can we, from different role of the societies, can work with these kind of issues? So that is, I think that is my path from law students who do not want to limit it by law, and moving on to a more focused attention toward the technology and the digital human rights.
Yeah, that's an amazing experiences so far. It was brilliant to be concerned with the multiple actions in the civil community in Taiwan. That's the
Yeah.
pillars that you've been very exciting to this moment here. So, as for your experiences, you kindly pick in some words, just like a GOP Zero and Taiwan. I suppose that you've been involved in still a lot of the project at this moment. So could you share about a little bit about this organization and what the kind of the law that you are working on like this moment now?
Yeah. And before I share my experience in Gov Zero, I would like to make a disclaimer because in Gov Zero, we have a very strict principle saying that we cannot represent other participants in Gov Zero community to speak, like we cannot represent everybody's experience in the Gov Zero. So the following sharing will be only based on my own experience. So first of all, what is Gov Zero? So Gov Zero is a civic community in Taiwan. I think it is the largest civic community. But however, in Taiwan, we are also have different kinds of community. They holding conference or they have events every year. Like SitCon, Student ID Conference in Taiwan, they are also very large, and have become a very critical human resources for the civic tech community and the digital human rights community. So back to the God Zero. God Zero is founded in 2022, 2012, 2012. So it was like 13 years ago from now because right now it's 2025. So God Zero is founded because the founders of the God Zero, they participated in the Yahoo hackathon. It was a hackathon event held by Yahoo in Taiwan then. And they are during then the ruling party is not DPP, Democratic Progressive Party right now, but the ruling party is the opposition party right now, the KMT. So the KMT president released a TV commercial, saying that the people should only following the government's direction on the economic policy because the government is making actions and the things are too complicated for the ordinary citizens to understand. So we do not want to tell you more about the details, just follow us. And the engineers and also the founders of the Gov Zero got very angry about these commercial because they think that the citizens is actually having more autonomy and more intelligence than the government thinks. So they designed a first project of the Gov Zero and win and finally won the hackathon. They won the first prize of the hackathon. So the first project is called the visualization of the central government's budget. So originally, the government's budget is kind of like in a pile of the documents. Everybody needs to compile these documents, different kinds of Excel file, and they need to merge them together to understand the overview of the whole government budget. It's definitely too complicated. But however, with the digital tools, we can easily visualize them by making up a website and putting out a lot of putting up a lot of like pie charts or different kind of charts uh to illustrate the government's budget. And right now, the website is still exists. So I would like to post you a website which is the represents the 20 the latest government budget in Taiwan in the chat box, so you can check it out later. So basically, it actually allows the citizens to understand more tangibly about how government is spending the money, spending the taxpayers' money. And after then, GovZero is founded, and originally it is not a community, but more like a bi-monthly event. They have a bi-monthly event called Hackathon. So during the hackathon, people will raise their ideas, people will make proposals and invite other volunteers to participate into their proposals. And these proposals are usually using the technology tool to dealing with the problems or the social issues. So that is why we call civic tech, using this technology tools to solve to solve the social issues or some problems existing in our society. And the GovZero community finally becomes a very large community in Taiwan, and it got more reputation, more exposure on the media during the Sunflower movement in Taiwan in 2014. So Sunflower movement in Taiwan marks the very turning point of the Taiwanese society. So originally, people and a lot of people are using the internet, using the social media to try to influence the whole society. And GovZero is kind of these following these kind of trends. GovZero has become more and more larger, and also have multiple different events like GovZero Summit, which will be held expect to be held next year. We have a biannual summit or the conference at next year. And well, a lot of different projects are also popping up. So one is my project called vTaiwan, and vTaiwan is proposed after the Sunflower movement. So basically, its original purpose is to make the government more willing to hear from the people. The ruling party can see trying to use the digital tools to attract more public discussions and regain the public trust toward the government. So vTaiwan is formed under the cooperation between the government and the civil society. A lot of citizens become volunteers to work in the vTaiwan project. But however, vTaiwan projects also facing some challenges after the government is changed, after the ruling party change. So several challenges, including that the volunteers starting to flow to other different projects, and the government's representative working with vTaiwan is also left the government. So originally it was a lawyer called Jacqueline Tsai. She is very willing to work with vTaiwan's and work with the citizens. And after that, it was Audrey Tan take the position. But Audrey Tan is trying to use different ways to help vTaiwan. And finally, Audrey Tan become the minister of MODA. And in this position, she actually do not have the power or do not have the authority to coordinate different government agencies. So uh, finally, vTaiwan losing the support from the government, and then become silent for a while, like 2 years. And after these 2 years, in 2023, one former vTaiwan member find me out and say, okay, It's a project proposed by OpenAI called Democratic Input to AI, and it offers like 10,000, not 10,000, let me think about it, 100,000 grant in US dollar. So there's a huge large of money. So we decided to work with Chatham House to win this grant, and finally we made it. We become the 10 teams to win over these to win the grant, and we got 10,000, 100,000 USD with the Chatham House, and we successfully restarted our event, our community in Taiwan. And basically, vTaiwan is trying to use the virtual way, like the internet, like the digital tools, like to try to make some breakthrough into the deliberative democracy. Because originally, deliberative democracy, I'm not sure if these discussions happening in Japan, but in Taiwan, we have had a long time discussions about deliberative democracy. Because during rounds for voting, people starting to feel that sometimes voting a candidate, like the politicians, like the parliament members, to work for you, sometimes is very inefficient. Sometimes these politicians only cares about their own interest. Sometimes the government's policy do not reflect people's direct will or direct intention. So, deliberate democracy is introduced to Taiwan, trying to use the direct discussions with different stakeholders to solve these kind of problems. And the vTaiwan is trying to use the digital tools to enhance the ability of deliberative democracy. Like we can use digital tools so that we can make people do not have to come to the face-to-face meeting, but using the Skype or Google Meet or the Zoom, like what we're doing right now, staying in their house, and then they can participate into the discussions. Or we can use some opinion collection tools to collect opinion before the event so that we can delve into the deep discussions rather than just shallow discussions in the limited time. So that is how vTaiwan is doing. And we are also doing this right now. And we use more tools like generative AI. So that is what I'm working on. And by the way, we actually had our next event. It's a virtual event talking about the AI sensor system in social media. How should we redesign these AI sensor systems and the policy virtually? So this is also another advantage of the digital tools, because if we don't have these digital tools, I have to be in Taiwan to host these discussions. But right now, even though I'm not in Taiwan, I can still become a moderator to moderate these discussions like that. Yeah. So this
Yeah,
is my answer for GovZero and vTaiwan.
yeah, that's very brilliant. That's very helpful because the some Japanese folks they wanted to know the how the like the origination of the God Zero and with Taiwan and how this works. Because it's a very familiarized among the civic community here, and
Yeah.
Taiwan has been pretty advanced to started to working on this community building, which is
Yes.
a very good incentive the Japanese people to run from the new actions. So in addition to these two civic community, you work on the Judicial Reform Foundation. I visited their work that was very remarkable since the probably was in 1995.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
starting
old,
like
but
30
it's
years,
yeah,
30
yeah.
years ago.
30 years
Mm.
ago, that was a very long history. So could you share about this foundation, what they are working, and what you've been concerned this time?
Yeah, so originally the Judicial Reform Foundation, as their name, they are the foundations they are pushing for the judicial reform. And the founder of the Judicial Reform Foundation, it was a special group of lawyers. So it will back to a very special historical background in Taiwan, because during Taiwan we have a very long term under the martial art rules. If you understand Taiwanese history, like we have like a longest history of the governance under the martial art law, martial law. Sorry, not martial art law, martial law. So these kind of dictatorship or these kind of the government is having a lot of power and trying to control you guys is also influenced the lawyer. So originally, if you want to become a lawyer, you have to pass the national exam. In Japanese, it was called the Hoshiken. But in Taiwan, during then, like 30 years or 40 years ago, the lawyer quote the quotation the quota for ordinary university students to pass or the Shihoshiken is really little. Like they have very little quota, like 10 or 15 a year. Why? Because a lot of positions of the lawyers is reserved for the government officials. They when they want to retire, and they can easily use their government official experience to trade with one lawyer license, which is ridiculous because there are some people are not having legal training, but however, since they become a government official and they retired, so they can get a license on that. So that is a really ridiculous thing, and it actually exists in Taiwanese judicial history. So after that, more and more after more and more lawyers, more and more university students become lawyers, using very little quota. They gradually increased, and they finally took over the power with these old lawyers, which is the lawyers not having the professional legal training. But these lawyers trying to reform the whole judicial systems. So that is the background why in 30 years ago, the Judicial Reform Foundation is founded in Taiwan. And right now, the judicial systems is quite different from 30 years ago. So the Judicial Reform Foundations, their mission is also changed. They are not aimed at more judicial reform, but more tangible reform on different kind of issues, like how can we redesign the rehabilitation systems, including the prison, including the while we keep our criminals in, and how can we use the rehabilitation systems to offer them better education, making them recover from the jail after they get into the jail. After they get out of jail, they can become a new guy, a good guy in the community, and they will not be discriminated, like these kind of issues. And they also talk about gender issues, like currently in Taiwan. Also, I think Taiwan's gender equality status is kind of like better than before, but however, there are still a lot of things to be improved. So that is another issues that we are working on. And finally, the some emerging issues about technology is not only the technology using by the police, using by the prosecutor, like in Taiwan. One very controversial thing is that it was called one technology was called M card. And refers to mobile because stimulate, it will fake a mobile server and to cheated the criminal's cell phone to direct their signal through to connect their signals of internet and telecommunication with these card. So this card can capture all the information sent out by the criminal's cell phone. So that is the technology that highly invade the criminal's privacy. Although they are criminals, but they still enjoy the privacy. So that is the things we are talking about. That is the things we have discussion about. And also we are trying to expand these kind of things in a more diverse and more wide range, like artificial intelligence development in Taiwan, like um, blockchain technology or digital identity issues in Taiwan. All these kind of things are dealing with in our task force. So that is why our task force is usually composed of different backgrounds of people. We have a computer engineer, we have lawyer, we have a former computer engineer and then become lawyer, like these kind of people. And we also have students, a high school students, which is very smart, who is very smart, and he's able to compose these kind of two issues together. And also like me, working as a law student or a lawman, but however, I'm also working in the civil tech community. So this is how Judicial Reform Foundation is working on right now. And currently, our work focusing on making proposal to the government to making suggestions on the new law because currently there are some critical digital right related act is lying in the parliament, like Personal Data Protection Act. We are having our latest version of amendment of the Personal Data Protection Act, which is directly related to the privacy. And also in Taiwan, we have our national health insurance, 全民健康保険. So these kind of health insurance, they have a byproduct is the health data generated by the health insurance system. Because when you go to the hospital every time, you have to present your health insurance card to the hospital, and the hospital will compile your data into the card so that and pass the data back to the database set out in the national health insurance agency. So these kind of health data become very critical for further research, but how to take advantage of them and strike a balance between the privacy protection and the data vitalization or the data usage is kind of like very critical issues. And currently, we are drafting a new law governing and managing the use of the health data generated by the national health insurance. So this is also very critical. And finally, we also have our AI basic law in our legislative yuan right now. And we also have the virtual assets law in our parliament right now. So there are a lot of different laws are lining up, and we are dealing with these laws individually or as a whole like that. Yes. And finally, besides making response or suggestions to the governments, we also have our own proposal, and that is that is what we are working on currently. It was called the Digital Bill of Rights. I think the Leslie also discussed this with you. So basically, it's a wholesome digital related rights list for the government, including from the artificial intelligence to the privacy, from the extreme condition like having a war, because currently the geopolitical situation between Taiwan and China is very tense right now. So if the war happens, how can the governments compromise the privacy protection and the national security? They will become very critical issues. And that is also discussed in our Digital Bill of Rights like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the speaking out, the very brief summarize the how digital works in a institution in the space of the not just only for the tech, but also like legislative processes in Taiwan.
Yes.
So as for the next topic, I'm gonna explore in the more specific project that you've been involved in right now. In the data privacy and data protection topics, especially for the AI, that's a
Yeah.
part of the significance among the like the tech people. They wanna go the like to make in a specific guardrails, just like to put the specific governance system or the kind of the mechanism to prevent of the harms.
Yeah.
And on your article, that was pretty interesting for me. And you
Yeah.
involved the Taiwan to create a more democratic system to create the AI governance mechanism. So
Yeah.
could you share about the these kind of the schemes, how will it works, and how do you want to achieve this through the democratic AI governance? So could you share about the idea?
Yeah. So I would like to talk about the vTaiwan process in a more detailed way. So vTaiwan process, unlike the traditional discussions, we're trying to use the online tools to collect the large scale opinions from the different stakeholders and the citizens as well. So these kind of public opinions can become our draft and also become our material for the further discussions. And also, in the meantime, we also invite different kind of stakeholders, like specific stakeholders, these minorities, or discriminated groups or marginalized groups to come to the discussions and trying to make the whole discussions become more diversified and inclusive. I think this is the ultimate goal of our discussions, trying to bridge the different opinions from the public opinion to the stakeholders that usually being ignored. And why this is really important is because that in the AI governance is really important because right now the AI after multiple generations of development, the AI right now is become a very critical technology. And its feature is if you want to develop AI, you need to have a large amount of money to buy the chips or to buy the computing power, and also to offer the salaries and bonus for the cutting edge and the top human resources like engineers. And the third way is that the third part of the AI investment is about the data. You need to have a large amount of data, and these data must be high quality. The high quality means that it cannot have uh, the high quality means that it has to be very tidy. You have to clean the data. You cannot use the paperwork or the traditional scan file for the AI, but you need the better way is that you digitalize them in a Google Excel kind of forms like that. So these high quality data is also is indispensable and very important for the AI to develop. But however, in these kind of things, you can see that if the AI really emphasizes the amount of data and the amount of money, then how would the AI influence the marginalized group or influence the minority groups? Because these minority groups or marginalized groups, they are lacking the data and they are usually being discriminated. So the data, the existing data also have these kind of discrimination implied in these AI systems. So how to fix that will be a very critical question. And we believe that if we want to fix the question, if we want to fix the problem, we cannot exclude the voice from the minority groups. So we need to form a public participation process for everybody to coming in. And we believe that the vTaiwan using the online tools and the offline tools to collect data, compile them together, using the online tools, even with AI, to generate insight to see what is the people have agreed about and what is people have disagreed about. So we can generate the insights from the large scale of opinion collection, and then we can use the insight into a further discussion. And the further discussions, making it as a hybrid mode, which means that we include the face-to-face and online events, and to make people have different ways of participation, which can be also more inclusive and also more convenient for people who are not living in the city that we held event, or people living far away, or people living in abroad who also want to voice out. So this will be also a part of inclusive things for the opinion collection and the deliberative discussions. And after deliberative discussions, we can make up the guidelines and the principles for the AI developers to follow up on, which means that after this process, they will have a after this rule-making process, AI developers will have a more clear principle to talk about. And also AI developers are also invited. So they are also invited to voice out their need, like we need more data. So how, if we adapt these kind of principles, how can we get more data to develop our own AI? But however, we believe that every if both sides is shouting out at each other, say we want more data or we want more privacy, then things won't work. So the best way is to ask both sides to calm down and sit together and trying to negotiate or trying to discuss a new solution for that. Maybe synthetic data, like using the AI data to generate using AI to generate new data that your training needed can be a good way because it will not use more data and harm more privacy, or maybe some new technology of protecting privacy, like the zero knowledge proof system, can also work or be helpful to solve these issues. I mean, these kind of things and possibilities can also be included in the discussions. So that is why we believe that public participation is necessary for AI governance. And not only on AI governance, but also on multiple emerging technology issues, including issues about privacy. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that sounds very interesting. And in terms of this governance mechanism, is there any kind of the linkage between the like AI draft proposal from the regulatory perspective, or it's a separated, it's a voluntary actions for the governing of the AI system? Is that correct?
Mm, I mean, currently, the law and regulation around the world do not require the AI companies to adopt these kind of systems. But however, the similar mechanisms is developed. It was called the AI uh, it was called AIA, and let me think about how this is. AI impact assessments. So in these impact assessments, they are required to include different voice from different stakeholders. So, but however, they are not. I think they are not. They are not necessary to use the deliberative democracy ways to making these impact assessments. They can use also like interview or questionnaire different ways to look into the data, to look into the potential impact of AI. Like in Canada, they already have these kind of systems for the AI or automatic systems developed and deployed by the government agency. But for the private sectors, currently there's no obligation except for the European AI law. For the European AI law, there are more emphasis on the transparency, which means that the AI tech company, if you develop a AI, meets the requirements and meets the condition that set out in the AI basic law in AI Act in Europe, you are required to submit some documents explaining your AI's working, explaining your AI's database, explaining your AI's mm, mechanisms to the government agencies. So it will be more convenient for the government to inspect and supervise the AI, but also it spurs some controversies about whether it will become a harm for the trade secrets or it will actually making the AI companies, mostly they are United States companies, are unwilling to release their latest AI models in Europe. Yeah, so currently the regulation do not require them to do so. But since our project and these mechanism is developed under the sponsorship of OpenAI, so originally I believe that it is the OpenAI's intention trying to develop some ways to achieve the better governance. But however, when we are participating into these process, we are also influenced by the OpenAI's politics, which means that the Sam Altman was being ousted from the board member of the OpenAI and then coming back. These kind of drama also influence our press process, which because originally our article will be released in like 2 years ago, and due to this drama and finally, the whole process is postponed for 3 months to 4 months. So that is the things we are seeing that the private company, they have the resources and they have the ultimate resources that can outcompete the government. But however, the private companies, when they're controlling these kind of resources, not only the financial resources, but also the computing power, but also the high quality human resources, but also these kind of very brilliant AI scientists. They are also they are also have too much power over these kind of supervision, and it can actually ruin all the achievements that we have done just in a second or just in one intention. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. So we should watch on the progress to how this governance system can be achieved the goal. That was very remarkable. Thank you for the
Yes.
sharing. And
Yes.
and then for the next topics about you mentioned on the one project that we've been working on the leading of the digital rights. On the
Yes.
draft of the bill, you mentioned about a very significant point to like protecting of the fundamental rights of the human beings in the digital space. So in this draft, you mentioned a lot of the very significant point. And so could you share about what you wanted to achieve through the draft and the proposal and what the visions to create it in the future?
Yeah. So as we find out, the currently not only in the Taiwan but also international communities, when they are talking about the digital rights, they are usually talking about in some specific issues rather than a structural or overall issues. So some specific issues like AI, like privacy, like mm, what about the wars happening? So and they are just like different dots that scattering in different places, which is really unconstructural. So digital bills rights, I think their main achievement of these paper or these documents is that we're trying to build up a overall wholesale, very tangible and very overview structure for the digital rights, so everybody to follow. So I can give you I'm not sure if you received the web page, but I can re paste the digital bill of rights page into the chat box. So basically, we have 10 different articles in our first version. And in the second version, we are trying to make it more codified, which means that we're making the wording, making the structure more like a formal law or official law released by the government that that will reduce the distance between the our proposal documents and the burden for the government to reconsider our redesign the whole structure and redesign the whole article to become a formal law. That is what we are trying to do to reduce the barrier for governments to take our idea. So basically, we include different kinds of the digital rights. The first top priority in our digital age is privacy, because the right to autonomously controlling your data is really critical in a digital age, because data is everything in a digital age. And the second thing is about the data minimization or minimize data application, which means that we do not want the governments or the private sectors to collect more data if they are not willing or if they are not necessary to do that. And the third one is called meaningful alternative, because usually these technology, big tech, why they have the power to ask us to handing our data or ask us to compromise on our privacy is that, well, if you don't make it, then you can leave it. But however, these don't make it and leaving these kind of informed consent is kind of like meaningless, because we have no choice but to agree with these kind of articles. So meaningful alternatives is trying to fix this kind of problem, because if the corporations do not want to offer us the meaningful alternative, then we can ask them to offer one, so that we can still use the services even though we are not even though we are not letting our data to be collected by these private sectors. And the second thing is about become more making the digital environment more conducive for the democracy and freedom, which means that we find out that the digital environments like the social media or the algorithmic platforms, they are really harmful for democracy, because they actually encourage people to have more radical wordings, more emotional arousing wordings to share their idea and share their content, and which is detrimental for the discussions in the democratic country. So we want them to fix these kind of problems and making up a digital environment which is can lead to a better result for democracy, making people more willing to discuss, making people more sensible to discuss rather than more emotional. And there are also a lot of different things like government development to use automatic systems, which is artificial intelligence, and some public sectors obligations when they are developing the digital tools, when they are developing the restrictive measures to people on the social media or on the digital platforms. They have to have the rule of law. They have to follow some principle like proportionate principle, uh, principle of proportionality, or the principle of due process, like that. And we also want the government to think about the in some extreme condition, like when the war is happening, national security, how to strike a balance between national security and the privacy. Like some exceptions might be happens, like when the government wants to conduct the crime prevention, how can governments do the crime prevention in a way that protects the privacy, or how much level or how much degree of the privacy can we compromise when government is conducting the crime prevention? These kind of things is worth thinking about, and we trying to build it up in a single rule, single law, single proposal, which is more constructural, and you can have an overview to see the shape of the digital rights rather than different kind of spots. That is our ultimate goal.
Yeah, that was very impressive, and that's very important to push in the government to drive of the concept of the digital human rights into the process
Yes,
of the creation of the legislative action. So that your
yes,
action is been should be acceptable among the not just only for the government, but also the other civil society can work together, be united. So that was
yeah,
very good initiative. Thank you for sharing that. And
yes.
finally, I'd like to ask you about the message for listeners, because you had working on the several things, and it's very important to share to the audiences to learn from your ideas. So could you share about the last message to them?
Okay, since I'm currently working on artificial intelligence on my master's thesis, so I think I can share one of my insights during my research. So I think artificial intelligence and these kind of new technology, they are not creating a new problem, but they are making people aware of the existing problems. Like privacy issues is what we have originally, but however, we never think about it during the digital age because originally the privacy is not a big deal in the pre-digital age. The people's data cannot be spread and cannot be duplicated very easily. But however, in the digital age, they become very huge problems for your personal data to be spread and to be replicated very easily. So my message will be these kind of new technology, they are not raising the new problems, but they are actually making us aware of the existing problems. And also they are making us think about some possibilities because originally the artificial intelligence cannot generate the meaningful wordings. So we have to rate our wordings in by person. But however, right now we can use AI agent to generate words in a very short time. We can generate a whole paragraph, although the paragraph might be meaningless, but however, it's still a paragraph, a very sound paragraph. So that is the things that AI and these new technology can do right now. It actually opens up the possibilities for us. But however, we also need to think about what is the value of human being and what is the limitation of the human beings right now. Yes.
So thank you for Peter. That was very remarkable message to the listeners from the experiences. Again, I'm very appreciated and very honored to have a conversation with you and your project and happy to deliver to my community to get into your own essence to how it works to see then how the future collaboration can work. So thank you for
Thanks.
Peter to join in this conversation.
Thanks. My next question will be, can you send the recording and also the script for the recording to Leslie and me in the mail thread? It will be very helpful if we can also use this material of interview to share with our community as well.
Yeah, of course, that we share that this kind of the initiative to be shared among the community members to share the values, create a better society together. So that was a
Thank you.
remarkable idea. Let's do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.